Hello, I'm interrupted. Let's begin. So, from brief, I'm Michael Feffer. I'm a doctoral student at Carnegie Mellon University School of Computer Science, and I'll be presenting results of joint work with my collaborator, Nikolas Martelaro, and my advisor, Hoda. So, in this work, we proposed an educational module built around a database comprised of AI failure reports with the objective of raising awareness of AI harms as part of an AI ethics curriculum. We evaluate this module via a classroom experiment conducted at our institution as part of a course on societal and ethical considerations around using AI in machine learning society. We observed that interaction with the database helps students better understand the magnitude and severity of AI harm. Where's the trying to get that word? Not sure.
If you want to click.
Oh, wait. I was just trying to get the hair straight, but I can try to just proceed if that's fine. Okay, yeah, so we observed that interactions with the database help students better understand the magnitude and severity of AI harms, and also shifting some of their beliefs on AI harms. From notions of ethics, from fairness and transparency to things like safety and accountability governance mechanisms, and we have various reasons and postulate as to why that is. And this is important as students are future practitioners, and educating them is really important as they're going to be going on building the systems. So here's the outline of this talk. First, I'm going to motivate the rationale for our class exercise with examples of some recent AI failures. Next, I'll provide an overview of the AI instant database that we utilize for our module and introduce our primary research question that pertains to our classroom experiments. Then I'll describe the structure of the class activity, as well as the results analysis. And then lastly, I'll conclude with a discussion of limitations of our work, implications for the database, and recommendations for future AI ethics education. So I'm going to start by covering 6 examples of contemporary AI failures. So first, in 2015, Google's Hoda's application tag flag equals gorillas, and then 6 years later, Facebook's AI similarly put a primates label on a video fragment. In the chatbot realm, Microsoft's experimental chatbot was shut down in 2016 after internet trolls thought it would be hate speech, and then similarly in 2021, the South Korean chatbot Hoda was also taught to be hate speech. And lastly, in the autonomous vehicle domain, Uber's self-driving vehicle caused a fatal car accident with a pedestrian in 2018. And then in 2022, Tesla's full self-driving system caused a multi-car accident. So these examples are illustrating that AI failures are not only happening, but they're also happening repeatedly. And so hopefully this prompts the question, why is this happening at all? One potential reason is a failure of imagination. It refers to the idea that it's difficult to imagine possible harms, especially whenever harms have not been seen previously. Though this idea appeared at least as early as the 1960s, this had a resurgence in recent years in a number of areas, including but not limited to tech and AI, as seen in work as, for instance, Lawyers Gara et al. Published recently. So this brings us to the AI Instant Database, or AIID. Instant databases are compilations of past incidents and mechanical failures that have existed in other areas, such as transportation and construction. The reasoning is that by aggregating information about past failures, one can better avoid future ones. So AIID is an open source and volunteer-driven effort that draws inspiration from prior databases and focuses explicitly on AI instance failures. So given this inspiration, our primary research question is, how effective is this database as an educational tool to help future practitioners think about potential harms? This brings us to the class activity that we ran to explore this research question. As part of the course, Societal and Ethical Considerations of Machine Learning, run by the last author, we conducted an activity that consisted of 4 parts. So first, a pre-activity questionnaire to gauge students' familiarity with AI and its applications. Next, an in-class activity to explore instant records in the database. Then, a post-activity questionnaire to assess the impact of the activity on students' awareness of AI harms. And finally, an in-class discussion to reflect on the experience of using AIID in terms of its benefits and limitations, as well as to share an aggregate question findings. And so we worked with our institutions at AIID to get permission to run the study, and we made sure that we followed the spec and complied with it by allowing students to opt out of data collection if they wanted, anonymizing results as part of data analysis. So I'm not going to cover a subset of our findings, and please see our paper for full analysis of our results. So first, the post-activity questionnaire revealed that 2/3 of students reported an increase in motivation for taking the course after working with the AIID. Additionally, comparison between the pre and post-activity responses on the ML value-related questions suggest that interacting with AIID shifted students' priorities towards issues of safety and accountability and governance at the cost of focus on other issues. We conjectured that the delusion reports with incidents related to autonomous vehicle accidents and data misuse could have caused these shifts. Regarding the students' AI news and report habits, we find that most students tend to hear about such news every week, typically through a mixture of social media and traditional media. Students also reported that going forward, they would refer to the AIID occasionally or frequently, suggesting that the resource is useful but may warrant some improvements. Moreover, we quantitatively analyzed students' reported usability ratings of the database. While the majority of students reported that the database was easy or very easy to use, a non-trivial number of students said otherwise. This suggests that while the database is already useful, enhancements will increase its utility. After the class activity, we scraped more information from the database ourselves to derive some supplementary findings. First, we observed the ages of the items in their incident report review queue, specifically those of the full incident report submissions and quick add URL submissions. We found that most full report submissions were 1 to 2 weeks old, while quick add URL submissions were more evenly distributed in terms of age and or older in general. We also analyzed sources used in these incident reports. We did so by appending links to articles referenced in nearly all reports at the time of writing and processed them to retain only the domain name of each. Then we created a word cloud such that more frequently occurring domains appear in a larger font than less frequently occurring ones. So evidently, a mixture of conventional and text-specific journalism are typically used as sources in these incident reports. However, more independent blogging and reporting are also used as sources. So this brings us to the discussion of our results. First, regarding our limitations, we highlight that our student sample may not generalize, as it contained just under 40 students from an R1 institution that is diverse in some ways, but not in others. We therefore invite other institutions and organizations to attempt to reproduce the results with different samples. We also indicate that the scraping of AIID for supplementary analysis involved all issues that were currently present in the queue, rather than all issues ever present, which in turn could statistically bias our findings that the issues present were somehow different than the typical issue that passes in the queue. But these limitations aside, our results still suggest several takeaways from AIID development. See our paper for all recommendations, but some of them include or are limited to social media integration, given the students' use of social media to find their own incidents. Faster approval time, given some complaints about, given the statistics that we found on old reports, and some complaints about speed in terms of approving these incidents. Perhaps partial automation can be used to improve turnaround time, but still keeping a lot of human involvement in this approval process. And then lastly, incentivizing the reporting, perhaps through bias penalties, which I think can explore. So lastly, our findings also suggest several takeaways for AI ethics education. So first, the students' reactions to the database suggest that ethics courses should be a core part of AI curriculum. And additionally, as recent work such as that by Raji et al. In the fallacy of AI functionality indicates, it highlights that even people who wish to regulate and audit AI for fairness may incorrectly assume that it's safe and functional. So such courses should also emphasize AI safety alongside other ethics topics like fairness and explainability. And so to address these barriers of imagination, we believe that AI ethics education should take place at least partially via case study analysis. It turns out that this is actually in line with other engineering disciplines, including software engineering, which will cover accidents like those of the AIID and a full radiation device and the subsequent death at a cost. So we believe that in doing this case study education, that the AIID can help surface case studies and incidents to help in this regard. Thank you.
Questions?
Thanks so much for your work. It sounds curious. I've been looking a lot into reporting flows and incidents reporting, and I'm curious about how do you think, based on this work and your findings, about this nature of sort of individual versus collective kinds of harm due to these incidents, and how are we like analyzing and enabling this sort of more collective sense making based on like collection of incidents?
So I just want to make sure I'm getting your question correct. So in terms, so are you asking about the definitions of harm, or like how like collective reporting efforts like that are changing how we're thinking about harms?
Yeah, according to like the future, like ideal vision for kind of for an incident reporting system that could enable this sort of collective form of sense making among a community of people to like make sense of that.
Right, yeah, definitely a good question. I mean, it would be great if this, so this is, the database that we used, thankfully has some funding and, yeah, there's more information on their funding model and their leadership on their website, but again, it's like mostly open source and volunteer driven, which has both good and bad sides, right? I mean, it's for like a full-time, fully funded operation, that can, very easily find things and will have manpower to do so. But at the same time, I think the fact that it is open source and volunteer driven really helps. It feels like more of a grassroots movement that really helps people feel involved and they know what's going on behind the scenes. They're very clear definitions of harms. So I know that's kind of not a very clear answer. Basically, I feel like something in the middle between, at least like for me personally, I think something in the middle of something that's like fully volunteer driven, but something that also has a lot of industry and or government support would be the path forward.
Any other question? Okay, let's thank again the speaker.